I played College Football 26 early at EA a few days ago, and like last year, there are negatives and positives, so I'm going to talk about everything I experienced. I do think it's important to note though, I work with EA, but this is not sponsored by them. I just fortunately get to share my experience on things that might not have made the trailers, and I'll be referencing those plus the deep dives to piece together everything I saw. I'd also like to share with you all what an event like this is really like, but I do need to apologize for getting too excited too quick last year with all of the hype. I'd never experienced anything like that before, and this time around I wasn't as quick to being impressed, so even if the last game was still enjoyable, it needed to take a leap forward, and let's start all the way back when I landed in Orlando last Wednesday. Honestly, I just spent this first day with friends, then that night we had a dinner with all the creators there plus the EA staff, but the real college football stuff all came on Thursday. You get there in the morning, you do more talking, you have some great egg and cheese biscuit sandwiches, and then we got to see this display that had a unique college football item for every creator. They based it off of some of your favorite players, so for me they somehow found the pink Marcus Mariota jersey, but then it was time for them to go on for hours of presentations on what's going to change in College Football 26. They gave each one of us one of these playbooks with some plays in it, but also spots to take notes, so I can look back on all of my thoughts on things that I wanted to say to you all and just stuff that didn't hit the deep dives or trailers. I think the easiest way to do this is going to be following along with the deep dive they released for College Football 26 and then adding in bits and pieces wherever I can say more than what they've included. But to start us off, I do have some fun stats on here, like 60% of Madden Superstar players came over from Road to Glory imports. And then you all, the college football players, you had 480 hours of average playtime on College Football 25. If you can't do the quick math, I'll do it for you. That is 20 days on average that players played this game. So of course we're going to be excited for 26, and we have a brief overview of the upcoming game modes in this article. We're also going to get presentation features, gameplay updates, and more. You all saw some of the stuff in the trailer. You've seen the leaks on Twitter. We can all talk about it here. If you didn't know though, launch is about a month away. It launches on July 10th, July 7th if you get the deluxe edition for early access. And now let's get started with our reveal trailer. We've already watched through this, at least I'm going to assume most of you have. But I just want to play about 15 seconds of this so you all can get a good look at some stuff that they might not have mentioned in this article, but that came out, like dynamic lighting and how good this game looks. From hopping into multiple matchups, I can confirm the game looks better. I will say if you're a Kentucky fan, our intro has not changed one bit, but we did add on a mascot. That's right, Kentucky got their mascot in the game this year. If you noticed on the reveal trailer, there were a couple new mascots there as well, so maybe your team did have them added. And I'm sure the specifics will come on later with that. Take your career from starting from being an aspiring high school recruit, so this refers to Road to Glory. If you didn't somehow know, high school will be in Road to Glory in College Football 26. This is just the basic outline though. Nothing too important in here besides new plays, schools, not FCS schools. I'm pretty sure this is something that I can say. If not, FCS schools aren't in the game, but they did add some new ones in Delaware and Missouri State. I personally don't think that's the end of the world though. I think you all are going to like what they've been able to do with Team Builder. There's going to be a lot more coming on that in the future. And another one of the new things they've talked about here is upgraded abilities. I can tell you there's a lot of different abilities. There's a lot of new archetypes, which I think this article is about to dive a little bit deeper into, and then I can clarify more on. So we're getting into more in-game screenshots. I personally did not have this animation happen against me. I would have raged if I did. Thankfully, it didn't. I throw a pick before I get near the end zone, but there is a lot of information here, including the 300 real-world coaches I'm so excited to talk about. Again, this is just for Kentucky fans. We might not have Mark Stoops in this game, but we have a motivated Mark Stoops, so he will be there. This is a feature that is a huge deal for us Dynasty guys. It adds more immersion. If you're following where coaches are going in the coaching carousel, now you know. Beforehand, it was just random names, and you couldn't even tell what school they came from. I was completely lost. That is all changed. Now that we have over 300 real-world coaches, which includes coordinators, it can't just be head coaches. That would only be 136. There are some head coaches missing, but anyway, that's going to add some immersion for you. Kind of reading this whole part backwards. Not sure why my brain works that way, but that's what I've done. I can't sit here and confirm that every single one of them is going to have their true-to-life schemes, but I would like to think that EA would get that correct. They're calling it their most authentic college football experience yet. I think that's a marketing term that they're going to be able to use every year as they make it better. Wouldn't read too much into that, but they're going to start talking about gameplay up here from the top. They want it to be wide open, fast paced. The gameplay did not change in that aspect. It's not like they made it slower, more realistic. Personally, as a guy that spends a lot of times in the menus, not too much time doing online play, it was hard to notice too many differences. I did see some new animations. There's also the feature which I think Kurt Benkert talked about on Twitter, where defensive backs no longer just catch balls behind their head like this. They have to actually turn around, and if they don't, they're going to try and swat it or something, only if they can see it. I cannot stress how much of a game changer this is. That means that if your guy gets a little bit of a boost off of the edge, he's able to outrun him. You're not just going to have these cornerbacks making miraculous plays. they're going to have to actually turn around and see the ball dropping into his hands. I also find it incredible this didn't somehow make its way into their game in the past, but we do have stunts and twists this year. There are also custom zones that you can literally set anywhere on the field. This is going to be a feature that's more useful to online players, but basically if you have something like a cloud flat out there and you want him to drop back 20-25 yards, you can do that on the field. I think the best comparison for it is like how we're able to extend routes on the offensive side of the ball in 25. I used it a couple of times and I thought it was nice, but I'm not sure how much I'd use it against the computer. Their deep dive also goes on to say improve blocking and coverage logic. Now, I can't say much to this whenever it comes to improved blocking. I was using Kentucky against Auburn. You can imagine how that went. Drew and I, not the expert, didn't get very far into our game this year, but I can tell you, I was not able to run the ball with Kentucky, but it kind of makes sense. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you all either because I just can't remember how it went whenever I was dropping back to pass all the time. That's what I normally did. I could say the blocking was better, but I truly don't remember. How this event worked is basically the first few hours you sit through the presentation of all the new features, you have some lunch, and then the next few hours you get to play the game for a bit. And if they're saying they improved the blocking, then we could tend to believe it, but we also know how that goes sometimes. Whenever it comes to coverage logic, they must have improved this because I did throw more interceptions than normal. I know it's hard to believe. Anyway, when it comes to gameplay, that was the thing I was most satisfied with in 25. They've done some tweaks, they've added some stuff that makes it a little bit better, but I wasn't going into this looking for the new features, things they had to fix. I also only spent a limited amount of time in Play Now this year. I spent a lot more time talking with some of the devs so I could find out more about other features that they've added or just catch up on some stuff. For example, one of the devs hit me up during the year trying to figure out what all of the position changes exploits were, and I laid out every single last one of them, so they're not going to be there next year. I should have put 2 and 2 together that was probably going to happen, but it just shows that they're putting in a lot of extra effort to fix things that aren't working the way that they should. That is why after I put out my first thoughts of playing 26 for the first time, I'm comfortable in saying if you like 25, then you're going to love 26. I think you'll see more of that as we get farther into this video. Basically, they just listened a lot. They fixed a lot of the things that made the game not feel so polished. And so far, the college football dev team has done nothing to lose my trust, just earn it, unlike some of the other EA dev teams in the past, which I don't even think I need to name. As long as they keep on pouring in all this passion and effort, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but we got to return back to this. Let's talk about dynamic substitutions for the first time. And here it says it's for easier fatigue management on the field with additional upgrades coming to wear and tear as well, but I don't think I can talk much about this. I think I have to be pretty vague. Until the deep dive for gameplay comes out, all I can speak on is my experience, and I will say the wear and tear system whenever I was playing didn't have any issues with it. And then for the new dynamic substitutions, I didn't even try to use it, but basically you're just on the field, you hit a button, and then you can swap players in and out. It seemed pretty simple to learn, pick up on. They have overhauled archetypes. This is something I can speak on, and it encompasses the unique skill sets you see every Saturday. I believe that this system in this game versus last year's is miles better. I no longer think you're gonna have to worry about only recruiting certain players like deep threat receivers or elusive back running backs, and you all will see the new stuff unfold whenever we get to that. This is something that I can confirm is not just marketing lingo. They really did overhaul the entire archetype system, but I'm not gonna sit here and promise that it's gonna be perfect or it's not gonna come with bugs. I don't know. What I learned from last year is everything that's in the game, everything they talk about in here might not be as smooth sailing as they're expecting. It's how development works. You're just gonna run into issues. Like with these 2,800 new plays, there were definitely some new ones. I even have one of the new ones right here on this playbook. Those are all there 100%. Like you see this Wildcats wheel, I'd probably still throw a pick on it, but it's a pretty cool looking one. Then there was some garbage they put in this playbook of mine, like Wildcats double screen. There's no shot I'm ever using this. This is probably like a pick 6 half of the time. Maybe it wouldn't even work, but maybe it would on this game. I did notice that halfback screens were going a little bit better. My players aren't just standing there staring at the ball and letting it hit them in the head. That was a frustrating part of 25. Back to this though, 2,800 new plays, unique schemes like Rice's modern option and Penn State's gadget heavy. I didn't test these, so I can't speak on them, on how they were replicated in the game. But then of course, you gotta have thousands of players. There's new college athletes every year. We already talked about the real world coaches, so I think that's everything for this section. Any name that you see in an article like this, or for social teams that have posted their coaches being in the game, you can confirm that they're gonna be there. I'm not even sure if Kentucky confirmed Mark Stoops was gonna be there. I've done it with this video. My bad, EA, if that's something I wasn't supposed to do, but it was hard to miss a motivated Mark Stoops on the sideline. That was a part of my gameplay experience. Anyway, it was definitely cool to see these guys in the game. I saw some flack for Ryan Day, how he looks right here, but to be honest, for not using face scans for these coaches, I think it looks pretty solid. Like we could even throw up a side-by-side of Ryan Day and this, and yes, it's not going to be a perfect replica, but for me, it's good enough. Do you want this game to be like Madden, where all they care about is the detail and how great everything looks to real life? I don't want it to turn into that. I'd much prefer to them just keep focusing on other features, things that make this game better. And are we going to get more about wear and tear here? The advanced wear and tear system delivers more realism and is now fully customizable to fit your playstyle. Manage fatigue strategically and save your favorite playmakers for key moments with dynamic substitutions. Oh, it all makes more sense. Basically, it's already saying what I was saying. They're going to allow you to rotate players in and out on the fly, no pause screen needed because dynamic substitutions are on the field. And I guess I should also be able to see that their real-time health status is going to show on that little menu in like the bottom right corner because that is important for you to be able to tell whether or not you should take a guy out of the game. This could be very clutch. It's not like you're going to sub a player out and then immediately you're going to see them swapping each other on the field, but the next play, that guy will be in the game. And it looks like they've also started to talk about their improved coverage to give you the confidence in shutting down your opponent, improved blocking. We've already talked about this before. Players' left stick skills between the tackles matter even more. Again, these are small little details that I didn't even notice. But I will say, whenever they mention feeling the changes to our upgraded physics-based tackling system, this is something that I didn't pick up on when I was in Orlando, but then I came back here, I played College Football 25, and I noticed it immediately. This is something that I think they took over from Madden, but don't worry, it's not Madden 25's version, it is their 2.0 version that they have polished out a lot more. If anything, your players just seem to make tackles a bit more consistently, the hit sticks feel incredible, and there's more tackle animations and stuff. What I heard from talking with some of the devs was this wasn't Madden 25 last year, but now they have a 2.0 system that's much better because they didn't exactly like how it worked. It definitely opens up the door where the upgraded physics system they're taking over from Madden, maybe Madden takes some stuff from college football this year. It just shows that these two games could become intertwined. One thing I did pick up on in my time there was these two games are going to take all the good things from each other and add them in because we want to have a great football experience, and that's why I put out this tweet that we're about to talk about. I honestly just thought it was funny, can't say much about Madden yet, but I will be playing it more than I did last year, and I can say that because I played for less than 1 hour. I'm not going to play a football game if I don't enjoy it, though that hour amount on College Football 25 is a little bit gross. Thank you all for making this my full-time job. I'm always going to say that. And that's why that total is where it was at. Let's get back to this though. Experience greater control on both sides of the ball with the ability to call different stunts and twists to optimize your pass rush. This is something I didn't test out. I'm a user in a middle linebacker over the middle of the field, but this is going to help defensive line users. And then we already talked about the new custom zones feature to really dial in your coverage at the line of scrimmage, several new abilities that we can't wait to talk about more in our gameplay deep dive later this summer. So they're just edging you all. And I guess I'm just going to have to edge you all as well because I can't say anything more until that releases later on. What I can speak on though is Home Field Advantage 2.0. We already talked about how dynamic lighting makes these stadiums look better. There is going to be enhanced stadium pulse effects that honestly couldn't take much of a toll on me because of the games I play. This might sound dumb, but I didn't spend much of the game in Play Now this year, and when I did, I was always the home team because I wanted to see stuff like Kentucky Stadium. With that in mind, I did sit through the presentation that talked a lot about all of this stuff, like a more intense camera shake, the new heads-up display visuals, and clock distortion that simulates the pressure of playing as a visitor in a hostile territory, but I never felt it myself, which feels really dumb as a creator to not test out. I've got this whole notebook and everything on how I can get you all the most accurate, up-to-date information about this game, things I can talk about, and I just skipped over another thing. At least there are some important things that I wrote down here though, like silencing the crowd. I wrote just silencing the crowd, but I know exactly what that means. They fixed the bug wherever you would do this with your players, and then they would get stuck in that animation as the play started, so you couldn't use them as a user. I also had written down what they're about to talk about, that rivalry games, the college football playoff, and other high-stake matchups, basically night games, are now even more affected by stadium pulse, which is true. They did mention night games were a part of this. And I'm not sure how much this is going to matter, because again, I wasn't even testing this out, which is just so dumb looking back, but whenever you're on the road, how important confidence and composure is could actually help counteract these things. Listen, with this being my second year doing this, I went into this a little bit more prepared. I went into this without my blinders on, but there was still some stuff that was skipped over. At least I'm not just assuming things are going to be perfect and great this time around. We want you to immerse yourself in unforgettable game day atmospheres with more electrifying sounds, sights, and traditions than ever before. Feel the energy of new situations and stadium-specific music, fight songs, and dynamic commentary. I think I can talk a little bit more on this. They've done a good job here. If you are sick of just hearing the drum lines on your menu screen and turning them off immediately after you've opened up the game, then College Football 26 is the game for you. If you have been missing out as a Virginia Tech fan on having Inner Sandman, then College Football 26 is the game for you. In fact, I think they should give whoever gave this trailer a raise because this was worked in perfectly.
Chapel Hill to Pasadena. It crackles down our spines. Tradition, tension, roars that remind our rivals.
And here it comes.
They're not in Kansas anymore. It's electric.
I talked a little bit about it on my second channel. I made a video whenever all this came out, the initial reaction before I got to go down to Orlando. And one thing I picked up on really quickly was a team like East Carolina that I used last year didn't have this intro set, so they added this. They focused in more on the small schools. As we get farther into this deep dive, I think they're going to touch more on it. They've put more attention to detail to a lot of schools. Even Kentucky, they have their mascot now. I have to be careful though. Some of this could just be marketing. They want you to experience a new presentation that reflects the importance of each game in the context of your season. That's kind of true, especially with some of the stuff that they're going to talk about. And there's also stuff in the presentation deep dive that makes the game look miles better than what they had last year. You just notice it as you play the game, but these are always bolder claims to make. I will say though, there is a very, very cool turnover celebration that I actually went in and checked because they talked about it at the presentation. And if you're a fan of the Arizona Wildcats, you would know it. Every time they get an interception, they put a ball on a sword, and each time they get another one in the game, they stack on another ball. If you were wondering, this is what that looks like, and they've been able to do that inside College Football 26. This is all stuff that is going to make the game feel more immersive, that is going to help with some of those rivalries, because in the past, you just didn't get to hoist up the rivalry trophy. I'm actually really happy that they've worked on polishing all that out. Let's look into next level gameplay though. Feel the stadium shake as you discover more of your school's unique pageantry, traditions, and sounds, with new PA sounds including Metallica's Inner Sandman, 160 new school-specific chants, new mascots, and band music. So I can talk about the new mascots that I saw. Yes, Kentucky's is in the game. Have I mentioned that enough yet? I'm not sure. 160 new school-specific chants though, that is going to make a huge difference for just feeling more immersed in each game. And to be honest, this is the best part, the best thing that they could have said. We know how much people love drum lines from the menu last year. Obvious sarcasm. We're going to change it up for College Football 26, which they've done. EA says we're bringing new marching band covers of popular songs to our menus for players to enjoy, as well as fight songs from schools around the country. That'll just make it so much more enjoyable to have on in the background. You don't have to immediately mute all of the sounds like I do whenever I open up the game. But that's just the way that I play whenever I record, because if I didn't, then we'd get copyright stuff coming through. Anyway, learn more about this in our presentation deep dive coming later this summer. So there's a presentation deep dive coming. There's a gameplay deep dive coming. I can even say, putting aside my differences with Tennessee, this is stunning right here. Then we get to the broadcast and commentary. I am not the one that's going to give you the accurate opinion on this, no matter how much they have worked on this new and dynamic commentary. What did I just tell you all? I don't play with commentators on, so I never had to listen to it, though I did see a lot of your all's complaints. Theoretically, according to this, they've done a better job with it, but I didn't have any grounds to decide whether or not they were doing a better job or not. Just says battling back after a tough loss, back-to-back 400-yard performances, their expertise and insight adapt to your team's progress in Dynasty and players' rise and road to glory. You all are going to have to be the judges of that. You can't really tell unless you play. This next feature though, I can talk about because I got to see it, and all I will say is it looks beautiful. We have it back in the game. That is right, show off your championship. We have heard your feedback, and thanks to you, literally, all of you all complaining, the guys over on Reddit, you all did a great job this year in that one regard. And that is because the trophy room is back. Now is your chance to show off to your friends and rivals how successful you really are. There will be multiple ways for you to earn different kinds of trophies, and that is going to go across modes like Dynasty, Road to Glory, Road to the College Football Playoffs, and even competing in classic rivalry games in Play Now. This is where I fall into an interesting spot, because I don't know how much I can say about it, but what I can say is it's better than what we had in College Football 25. On to the game modes though. We got Ryan Williams making a sick catch with this picture here. Dynasty's where it's starting. How you create your dynasty will now be more important than ever if you want to cement your legacy as one of the best coaches. Assemble an elite staff, upgrade your coaching abilities, and then lay it out all on the field. Navigate the now expanded and most unpredictable transfer portal, featuring thousands of players each year, which is such a huge need that we needed fixed. A lot of this stuff's going to be talked about once we eventually get the Dynasty deep dive, and I can get far more into the conversations I had with some of the devs, but the transfer portal will be better. This is not just their marketing lingo, it actually is better, which makes me so glad, because if we're being honest, last year, it was kind of trash. I really don't think there's any way to describe it when sometimes you would have no players available that would even want to transfer to your school. I think that issue will be dealt with this year, but I don't want to say that it will be 100%. There's a lot of stuff that you really don't run into until you're 50, 100, maybe even 500 hours deep into a game. I'm still running into stuff on College Football 25 at 2,000 hours that I never saw before. And I think that's what I learned the most last year was my experience a few hours on a build that isn't even going to be what they have at launch most likely, isn't going to really capture what College Football 26 is. It can give us a pretty good idea though, and personal management has never been more important with new location-based visits having the potential to give your program an advantage in recruiting. Basically, what they mean by this, I don't even know if I can say this. This is the hard part about knowing this information before I record this video. So all I'm gonna say is you're much better off scheduling players for visits that are closer to your school than across the country. It also points out landing critical talent for your team by managing new dynamic deal breakers. These are the sick thing that makes the transfer portal possible for it to be more unpredictable and for thousands of players to enter it each year instead of what was happening on the last game. That's what they kind of explained to us, was there just weren't enough players entering the portal, which is why you wouldn't have that many options of players to go after. With these dynamic deal breakers, they can fluctuate, but that's actually a beneficial thing because it makes it more realistic. You can't just go win a championship and nobody wants to leave. I think that was all stuff that you could infer just by reading something like dynamic deal breakers, so I hope I didn't leak anything there. Traits while trying to retain your favorite playmakers and cement your program's legacy. I think they're talking about dynamic traits here, and of course this is just all with retaining your favorite playmakers. You don't want them to transfer. Just like the deal breakers, traits are able to go up and down, though I'm not too sure on all of this. I think it's just in-game depending on how they're performing. It says dynamic, so they kind of gave it away. Crossplay is here though. This is such a big deal. As you all should already know by now, College Football 26 is not going to be on PC, but it does support Xbox and PlayStation going back and forth. Like last year, you'll be able to run a 32-person online Dynasty with friends regardless of their platform. And so now you no longer need the same console as your buddy to participate in a Dynasty with him. This ran us into so many issues last year whenever we were actually trying to put together a couple. This was not something that I was able to test out, of course. Within the members tab, you'll be able to see each user's system if you're curious on which system each player's on. And then to use crossplay, you'll need an internet connection. That's obvious. You need it for an online Dynasty anyway. The latest game updates, a valid EA account, and a platform account on your chosen platform. All that makes sense. It's enabled by default in online Dynasties. It can be turned off, I guess, if you want to, and they might talk more about it later on. If there's any big thing to take away from all of this Dynasty stuff, though, they left one last note, because they were not just satisfied with telling you that there's going to be stuff like a trophy room, that they fixed the transfer portal, even some of the recruiting upgrades they've made. No, they had to mention that we're going to see you at the Dynasty Deep Dive. There's a lot more to come, but they're also happy to sneak in a little bit of announcement that formation subs and protected opponents are coming in College Football 26. If you remember last year, protected opponents were supposed to be in College Football 25. They even had it in a deep dive, which is why you can't necessarily take these for just a fact that it's going to be there. But like 99% of the time it should be. They just ran into a massive glitch and bug, which meant they had to pull it or else the game would have been a wreck. What I can say about Dynasty is there are a lot of bugs that we would run into last year. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of quality of life things that are no longer going to be a problem in College Football 26, and I can talk more about it in the future. I think, again, though, this is just reiterating that the college football team, it might not be like past EA ones. They're listening. All we asked for this year was stuff like formation subs, trophy room, and what did they do? I cannot tell you how many times I had devs tell me that they're looking through some of the tweets that we put out and seeing all the replies on what the threads were, or they're reading through Reddit, seeing how they react to each thing. It genuinely happens. I really don't know what more to ask for. Every time we're there, all I can see is the passion. Heck, you even got RBT. He wasn't at the event last year. He showed up this year, puts out a tweet that says he can just see the passion in their eyes, and it's true. All of those guys there love this game. They play it, and they want it to be as good as it can be. That is why I say I'm willing to put my reputation on the line that they're going to try and deliver as best as they can, even when they mess stuff up. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to take years for this to be as good as it could be, but let's just get on to Road to Glory before I keep on glazing. I gotta stop. I would also like to add, if I ever glaze Madden like that, the way that I just glazed the college team, it's either because Madden has somehow just made a massive transformation to the best game ever, or I have been like captured its AI. I don't know what EA is doing to me, but please get me some help. Okay, anyway, Road to Glory. This is what I want to keep on improving, and heck, why I want Madden to have these huge steps forward, because I would love to enjoy the time of taking my player over from college to Madden after going through high school, which we now have, and college on CFB 26. There's going to be a hat ceremony. It's going to be sick, but if we can't have fun in Madden 26, then we can't finish the career. It is what it is. It is time for you to begin your ultimate student-athlete journey as part of the recruiting class of 2025. You get to choose from 10 new archetypes, and this is something I actually picked up from before I even talked to anyone there, so I tweeted it out. And EA thought that I was leaking something early. No, I wrote all my tweets on the plane before I got down there. Anyway, there aren't new positions in Road to Glory this year because you can just pick that up from this article. They mention there's 10 new archetypes. If they're not going to mention new positions, then they're not going to be there. It's pretty obvious. So yes, it is a little bit of a disappointment, but I think part of it could end up having to do with the fact that you have to import it over to Madden. So for there to be a new position, Madden and the college team would have to add it. Hopefully they can get that ironed out in the future. Anyway, the new archetypes that we're going to see on the players are also going to be brought over to Road to Glory. That's where those are going to come from. With every decision shapes how your career will look. That could also make a difference. We'll see. And I will also note there have been some Road to Glory leaks that have come out that are not going to be included in this deep dive because one of the writers just decided, I'm just going to air it all out. I'm not going to listen to an embargo. Out of respect for the EA team, I asked. They said don't talk about this yet since it wasn't meant to be out there. So I'm just going to wait for the deep dive to give my real thoughts and opinions on all of it. But I can say from experience, it is a little bit better than it sounds. We'll dive more into that in the future. Build your highlight tape though to earn an offer from your dream school. Make that decision in the famous hat ceremony. You do get to use this ceremony, and I already saw, I think it was QJB that put it out. You are able to do stuff with those hats. It's not just picking it up and committing to one school. What I am able to say was it's a no-brainer. Road to Glory is miles ahead of what it was in college football 25. It's actually embarrassing to look back at 25, seeing what it's like now in 26. And since I'm not going to talk about some of the other leaks that didn't come from them that came out, I will be answering some of the questions y'all had to me on Twitter if I can. That's coming after the rest of this though. You rise in class rankings. You secure scholarships before other recruits, along with a new tier of abilities available for you to reach with your athlete. There is one new tier. And basically what you're just going to take away from the rest of this, like earn coach trust, build team chemistry, and navigate the competitive recruiting process, is they're just working on adding depth to this mode. Like Dynasty, that's going to include fixing some of the annoying bugs that we had to deal with last year, not just putting in some new features and ignoring their past problems. But it's not like I want to promise that everything's going to be fixed that was broken. I can't confirm that. That would not be something I would want to put myself on the line for, just that they're trying to fix most of the stuff. I can't sit here and promise you that every single thing you had a problem with is going to be different this year, but they did fix some bugs as well. Commit early if you found the perfect fit for you, or decommit if a better opportunity comes your way. And that's just a great part that needed to be in the process. You can flip your commitment. From what I have seen and experience with Road to Glory, which I can talk a lot more about once the deep dive comes out, it's miles ahead. I mean, we have high school now versus not having it. Even if it's not the way you want it to be, it's better than what it was. Then they're going to mention your journey to become a superstar in Madden 26 is yours to define. I do think I'm going to enjoy that mode a little bit more this year as well. We'll see. Hopefully I have more than an hour on Madden 26. Your Road to Glory student athlete can begin their journey to the superstar mode. We always know that this can connect. You can import it, whatever. And should I talk about College Football Ultimate Team? I didn't touch it last year besides like one video for the channel, which actually did pretty well just because I built a roster off of what players told me to. And I probably won't do much with it again this year, but what I will say is if you're a fan of some of those first year Ultimate Teams that seem to be a lot of fun, you've enjoyed a mode in the past, you might like this one. I mean, there was clearly an audience for it. When I asked all the players at the cover shoot their favorite mode, that's what they said. I'm sitting there asking them that, they're saying it, and I'm like, is EA like telling them to say this so I put it in my video? I genuinely just think they're dumping their NIL money into packs. They enjoy the Ultimate Team mode. I kind of get it. I did in the past. I haven't in recent like 4 or 5 years. But there is an audience for this. I think the team's gotten better the second half of the year. They've realize that there is demand for part of it, but it's not going to clearly overtake the stuff that people really care about for college, which is Dynasty and Road to Glory. I think that's why you're noticing that you look at the deep dive and they have not written very much for it. Same for Road to College Football Playoff, which I find surprising. It's an online mode that a lot of people enjoy. And what it says here is just be the team to beat in the playoff, make the most of your new home field advantage. So that does include home field advantage coming over to online play. The things they've done to that mode to improve it, it's not going to be anything too drastic, but I'm a fan of it. I think some of the stuff that they're doing with it makes more sense. I mean, they even had that test run last year where they had 3 tiers, then they jumped it up to 5. You can climb the ranks, take down online opponents, and dominate in a new progression system, so that's what I'm alluding to. And then, of course, we mentioned the trophy room will also be available for this. You can win a national championship. Team Builder is the last real thing to talk about, though. This is another thing where I think I can just hint at the fact that it's going to be a step up from what it was in College Football 25. You'll be able to import your custom teams from last year, which is nice. You should be able to bring them over. But with this in mind, I'm hoping some of the changes they've made will also be included on those older teams. We're also going to see with new features in Team Builder, so they're saying the same thing that I'm saying. There's new stuff that we've been asking for. You can refine your team details and explore enhanced roster editing options. And I can just say, if you compare this to 25 like the rest of it, great. I genuinely feel heard in this department because that was one of the things that I talked the most about with one of the devs. I just could not stand some of the team builder stuff. As I read through the rest of this, it just says greater control over your identity and legacy. We'll find out more in the team builder deep dive that I can actually be more specific on. And I do want to note that last year it was in a beta. This year it's no longer in a beta, so that's probably the reason for some of these improvements. I would also like to clarify, team builder content is being used the exact same way that it was last year. If I'm reading this correctly, of course, it can be used in offline play now and private Dynasty modes, but it was always able to be used in offline play now, and then an internet connection and EA account required always goes back to private Dynasty mode being the cloud ones. But I am going to ask that question again just to make sure. Maybe it could even be a change they end up making by the deep dive where you can end up using that team builder in single player. I would love to see it, but for now I think it's on cloud Dynasty files. And I'm excited to end this video with a little bit of a Q&A. Ask me anything about college football 26. I probably can't answer 95% of it if I didn't talk about it already, but I'm still going to search for some stuff I can. The first one I noticed was, is the menu navigation really better than the last game? I had an absolute blast in the menus. You know I care about that the most. And then we get to some gameplay stuff like how did the zone defense feel, specifically flats and thirds. In the limited games I played, I was getting stops a good amount, but I don't want to be the expert and claim that it's way better than last year and then it might not be because I'm not a gameplay person. Did they add new abilities to offense and defense? They definitely did. It's not just the same ones from 25. And this was a little bit of a tough one. It was, if you had to choose one new favorite feature, what would it be? I really think it's just the combination of like the 50 things that they changed that we were asking for, all being one instead of like one specific item. A lot of this stuff though, I'm just worried that I'm going to say something that I shouldn't. Can you flip recruits in Dynasty? You could do that last year, so yes, you can do that this year. Okay, this is a good one. Is this shout in college football 26? I didn't look at Oregon specifically, so I can't say from experience, but I did notice for some teams that there were third to fourth quarter traditions that weren't there last year. As for recruiting, I think the dynamic deal breakers is going to make this far more interesting for us. How great's the Virginia Tech intro? I didn't hop into a game with it to see it. And will it be more of a grind to build up a program this year? I feel like that's something you can't answer until you actually do it. Here's the thing. I'm looking through the playbook right now, and I took 2 pages of just bullet point after bullet point of changes coming to Dynasty. So what I'm realizing is, even though it's really hard to answer most of these questions, besides the basic ones I've already talked about, like yes, there's new mascots, is run blocking better? I ran with Kentucky against Auburn. It wasn't a good time for me, so I can't even talk about this. It could be a completely different experience depending on who you're using, though I do think there's going to be a larger difference between the best and the worst teams in the country. I'm so excited for the actual game mode deep dives to come out, because then I can just rip into everything I saw for those game modes. Did you throw 4 interceptions? I don't want to talk about this. Why is this a question? You already know the answer to that, but listen, if you like college football 25, I do believe, based off of the things they listened to and what I saw, that you're going to love college football 26. I'm still going to add this. Since this video is not sponsored by EA, don't pre-order the game until you're comfortable with getting it or you see something that you actually like. Nobody's forcing you to do that. It's not like the price is magically going to go up if you don't get it this second. In fact, it's going to go down the longer you wait. And yeah, I'm excited to talk more as more comes out. I really appreciate everybody on the college football team, especially the developers. They're awesome. And let's just have another great year of college football video games.